evening. How great is our God? One of my favorite songs, I play it sometimes to go to bed, especially the World Edition, my favorite song. I wanted to start off by thanking the aspiring lawyers of Penn State University for that introduction. And of course, like everyone else, my heart goes out to the wonderful, amazing leader, Evangeline M. Mitchell, for this amazing conference. Thank you. These are amazing times we live in. Never have we seen since the 1960s, in many ways, this powerful intersection of youth and the law. It is, of course, my deepest honor to receive this award. But I come to you today to bring two powerful messages. One is to remind us that we are in a hard struggle right now as African Americans. The African principle of Sankofa means to move forward while always remembering the lessons of the past. And in our times in the last year, we celebrate the 50th anniversary of amazing and profound transformative impacts on our society led by African American youth. Everything from the Children's Crusade in Birmingham, the water hosing of by Bull Connor, those demonstrators, the March on Washington, the assassination of Medgar Evers, the field secretary for the NAACP, all of these amazing people never saw their 40th anniversaries. Also, the creation of the Lawyers Committee in this time. But we also have seen this year, the 50th anniversary of the 1964 Civil Rights Act, without which we would not be in this hotel. Let's face it, that act made public accommodations, discrimination in public accommodations illegal. Up until that time, you could, in fact, have segregated public facilities. It made it possible for there not only to be black lawyers at the head of so many important institutions, but it made it possible for women to also be leaders. That profound advice and leadership. You see, we need to understand who we are in these times and what it means to be a lawyer, an African-American lawyer. The other great cause of our times, you can't go anywhere without seeing it, is the November 4th midterm elections. 11 days away, my dears. 11 days. And believe me, you're needed in that struggle. The Lawyers Committee leads what's called the Election Protection Coalition. And it is critical in these times when we see so much voter suppression taking place. Everything from restrictions on student voting, voter ID laws, ex-felon voting rights disenfranchisement, polling place location moves, same-day registration threats, early voting diminishing, all of these things. The one thing everybody needs right now is they need two things. They need to know that on November 4th or during early voting, that there's somebody out there who has their back. That somebody will help them if they encounter a problem when they're trying to vote. That somebody right now can answer on the phone to tell them here in the state of Texas, where 600,000 people lack the voter ID that's required to vote, that somebody can tell them how to get there. That somebody can help them to navigate their way to the right polling place. That's why we have the 1866 Our Vote hotline, the 1866-687-8683 hotline. That's why we have the Spanish version, the Ve Vota hotline, and the Asian version, the API Vote hotline. You see, all of you here have a role to play. You can get out the word. You can be at the polling sites to help people. You don't have to be a lawyer to be capable of rendering assistance. In fact, Shamika, where are you, Shamika? Classic, came and introduced herself to me today, and she is not a lawyer yet, but where is she? She's leading and helping to lead election protection in Georgia. So that's so much. And we met today, and it was just wonderful to hear her commitment. So yes, you can make a difference. Remember, election day is not a day off, it's a day on. And for black people, you want to make sure that you do what my mother does. She gets up, I tell you, this is what my mother, she's 83 years old, you can't tell her nothing. But one thing she does, she gets up every day before election day, and she pulls out her book, and she starts calling everybody in the family. Baby, I know you're gonna vote, and I hope you made plans for when you're gonna vote tomorrow. And she does it religiously. And we need to make sure that there's not a black person in America who doesn't know that November 4th is election. And we need to make sure that they know how to get help and that we are part of that help. Lastly, in closing, young aspiring lawyers, by choosing the law, you have chosen well. Law is a great tool, a weapon that can be used to fight for justice. But one thing is clear. We only can win if we fight. When we fight with all of our diverse strategies, positions, and our influence, and our brilliance, when we fight in courts like the Lawyers Committee has been fighting in Kansas, Arizona, our lawsuit here in Texas, and our lawsuit that we just filed in Georgia, when we fight using these tools, that's what we win. So I want to thank you for this beautiful award, and I will see you on the battlefield. Thank you so much.